All right, we are continuing to track Nicole at this hour, and I believe we want to go over to Tim Deegan. Is that correct?
Tim, I think everybody's wondering what's going to happen in the next couple of hours, and then we got to look ahead to tomorrow too.
Exactly, and the fact that we're looking ahead to tomorrow from the Weather Center's busy point of view, if that's English at all, actually is encouraging, and it should be a positive sign for you as well. I wanted to make sure we pass this along to you. This came in at 4 o'clock, still showing winds of 45 miles per hour. We expected it would maintain its strength going right along the coast. Again, just if you're new to the area, or maybe you're wondering about November, if this had been in August and September and it was hugging the coast, Nicole probably would have re-intensified. But the water temperatures in the Gulf are down to about 70, so it's not doing that. It's moving quickly to the northwest at 15 miles per hour. The pressure's coming up. All of that just verifies that this powerful tropical cyclone is still gradually weakening. In fact, we expect it to be a tropical depression. That's what this that's what this symbol is over the next 12 to 24 hours. The shading, if you've been with us, shows you the contraction of the tropical storm force winds. It was at one point 500 miles from south to north. So we still have Nicole within a large tropical storm force area, but certainly much smaller than it was. So here's the big three. Michaela, pass this on. These are, again, as we look farther off into the future, still windy, still high tides, but again, for all of us, we've seen the worst. Just doesn't mean it's going to be a walk in the park for the next 12 to 24 hours. Still some occasional gusts of 40 miles per hour, maybe slightly higher on the higher bridges. Use some caution there. Tidal waters are dropping. This is also officially now the National Hurricane Center states that as well, but they're dropping from where they were, meaning when we go back up to high tide tonight, back up to high tide tomorrow, they're still going to be high. We'll still have water backing up through drains, just not as severely as today. As far as an isolated severe threat, we could see another round of severe thunderstorms tomorrow, especially the first half of Friday. Nothing like today. But just want to let you know, although conditions will be much better tomorrow, we will still be concerned about possibly thunderstorms coming at us from the Gulf. Yes, the Gulf, because remember, as Nicole continues to head to the north, see this motion coming out of the southwest? I think it doesn't take a meteorologist to realize what's going to happen. So as this continues heading northward and then eventually to Augusta, then Greenville and Charlottesville, Virginia, we'll see our flow come out of the southwest, and that could bring a few storms in here. Again, the tornado watch is being shaved off to the south as Nicole heads to the northwest. This boundary that we've been talking about that came at us from the south, worked into Flagler and St. Johns County as before dawn. This is the boundary separating the tropical air that was brought up by Nicole against that nor'easter cooler air, and that's why this band is so significant. But as Nicole continues to head to the northwest, that band lifts to the north and northwest, and that's why now Camden is no longer under tornado watch. Ware is no longer under a tornado watch. The tornado watch continues for those of you in Glenn, Brantley, and Pierce counties. We're going to watch this band. Again, the activity heading off to the northwest, but conditions are becoming quieter, less conducive for damaging winds from the south. So it could even be that for those of you in Glenn County, we can drop you out of that tornado watch maybe even before 7 o'clock. Nonetheless, we're going to keep a close watch. Even without tornadoes, any of these downpours as they come ashore could still produce some wind gusts to about 50 miles per hour, although increasingly the heavier and stronger cells are going to be heading more towards Savannah, Hilton Head, and then through the Carolinas. Again, these are racing off to the west and northwest, but the quieter weather, relatively speaking, working from the south to the north. So first we saw Nassau County get out of the band, then Camden County, and could be within about the next hour or so, Glenn County, you're getting out of the severe threat. Going to take a little bit longer for those of you in Brantley and Pierce County. We're going to keep a close watch on it for sure. So there's the tornado watch. There's what we call in the dry slot. I'm just highlighting here where the strongest or potentially strongest storms are. And of all that's going on, if you look, really the strongest storms are out here over the Atlantic, along and now east of the Gulf Stream. And these should all come ashore over about Savannah and the Hilton Head area. So we're going to watch these closely, but I'm becoming less and less concerned that they're going to come back our way. When I say our, I'm talking about those of us over what we call the first coast of southeastern Georgia and northeastern Florida. The term drier, I know it's humid out there, kind of muggy, but I'm talking about above about 5,000 feet. There's what we call a dry slot that has worked through the region, and that just supports the idea that we're going to have very little in the way of strong thunderstorms. In fact, we probably won't have any over the rest of northeastern Florida for the rest of the evening hours. Maybe some isolated brief showers, but this regime should continue as, at least for the evening hours, Nicole heads off to the north and northwest. I think if we start to see any shower or thunderstorm activity start to then come back at us from the southwest, that will not happen until, well, this is at 1 a.m. So it's probably going to would happen after 1 a.m., probably more like after 4 a.m. as it gets to about Macon and makes the turn. And then as it does that, and we get a beam of it to the south. So think about as it gets to Augusta, then we'll start to see activity come at us from the southwest. So I think most of you should sleep easy overnight tonight. That if we have any strong storms coming at us from the Gulf of Mexico, that's probably going to happen as we approach at least dawn or first light. All right, so now we're going to head to Friday, and notice the direction. This is out of the southwest, east becoming southerly and then southwesterly. So this will also help us with the tidal waters, because then the push of that water is going to head up toward the Carolinas and not toward us. Surf will still be large, but that will begin to drop. By the way, there's a big women's surf contest this weekend, professional women's surf contest. They're actually hoping surf holds on a little bit through the weekend. Hopefully we can get hopefully the debris is cleared, and so they can have a safe surf contest. Although a lot of us like warm waters, if we don't want to see too much energy in that ocean for any future storms, notice the surf temperature has dropped down to 70 degrees, and even seas. By sunrise tomorrow, seas 15 feet at the most, and they'll be dropping as well as we go through the day. And then the high tide for the beach tomorrow at about 9:30, 6 to 10, depending on where you are. So a high tide later tonight. Notice Jack's Beach tonight at 9:25. This is downtown, so this pretty much covers the core of urban Jacksonville, and I'm talking about areas off of Trout River and Moncrief and Ribault, and then all the way down through Ortega, Pottsburg Creek, Arlington River, over toward, off of Ortega, then also Cedar, and then we work farther off to the south. Notice the high tide along the Buckman, the next high tide at about 2 a.m. Shands Bridge getting down toward Green Cove Springs not until about 3 a.m. But you folks that live along the river know how that works. It works southward down the river. St. Augustine and Fernandina, and for that matter, St. Mary's. It's just hard to put everybody's tides there. But notice how Jack's Beach, St. Augustine, Fernandina, St. Mary's, Brunswick, pretty similar times tonight. That'll be 9:30 to about 10, and then tomorrow about 10 to 10:30. If you want to do your own math on these tides, remember the tides are happening because of the moon. The moon rises about 50 minutes later every day. We have two highs and two lows every day. And so if you don't have a table or you forgot about these, just add about 25 minutes for the next high tide cycle. Just think about the moon. Us meteorologists tend to spend some time on that because it's really just math, and it tends to be more exact actually than meteorological forecasting. All right, so for those of you in St. John's and Flagler, again, water levels of 3 to 5, and those are now going to be dropping to 2 to 4, and then gradually dropping. And that's our way of saying that, yes, we think in St. John's and Flagler you've had your worst high tide, but still, high tide tonight and high tide tomorrow will still be pretty significant, especially for those of you that are super sensitive to anything that's above normal. Gusty winds, but those are dropping as well, especially as we get toward 5 o'clock. This is about what, as it turns out, has happened with us. Certainly in Duval was higher than Ian. We'll probably say about 15 to 18 inches below what happened with Irma. So a significant event, but I still think Irma, or at least most recent watershed, truly severe event. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for now. In a few moments, unless something surprising happens, we'll even take and look ahead to the weekend weather.